Hi, this is Brennan Davis from Bedrock Games and the Bedrock blog, and I'm here with Lady Chow Fung and Kenny, and we're going to be talking about Painted Skin, the 2008 film. This is directed by Gordon Chan, and it stars Donnie Yen, Zhou Xun, Chen Kun, Vicki Zhao, and Betty Soon Lee. We talked about the sequel to the film, Painted Skin Resurrection, so we're sort of doing it in reverse. And this is a movie based on the original Painted Skin story by Pu Song Ling, and it is about a man who brings a demon into his household, a woman who can or a demon who can present herself to the world as a beautiful woman through this sort of fake skin that she produces, and she's trying to become his wife or his concubine, and there's a series of love triangles involved, and there's also an element of investigation and mystery to it because you don't know, or the main characters don't really know who the demon is. So there's a whole sort of intrigue element as well. But before we get into the overview of the plot, what did you guys think in general of this movie?
I enjoyed it. I for some reason I feel like I enjoyed the second one more though, just because the plot was less straightforward. And I know that the plot for this version of Painted Skin is more faithful to the original material. But it just felt like it was too sort of I don't know. I thought it was very predictable, and I think while the second one was also predictable, there were little twists here and there that made that sort of maybe sort of double guessed what was going to happen. But while I enjoyed this movie, I think the second one was better.
I also enjoyed this movie. I enjoyed them equally, though, even though this one was a little bit more predictable. They both pulled me in the same way, and I felt emotional about all the characters, and I cried in this one too, so I enjoyed them
equally. Did you cry as much in this one as you did in the other one, or was there a difference?
I think I cried more in the second one.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious. Yeah, I like them both. I tend to favor the second one simply because I feel like it's a little bit more visually interesting, and there's some other elements of it I like. But they're both really good movies, and I think it's really kind of a toss-up depending on which one you would tend to go for. And this one is definitely more faithful to the source material, though it does take some liberties for sure. But getting into sort of the beginning of the movie, it opens up in a desert, which the second one opens up in a similar type of desert scene once we have the initial escape from the ice. And we have General Wang Sheng, who's leading a group of soldiers. And we were talking about this before the podcast. He's described as a general, but we think he's some kind of patrolling inspector or something because he has a small number of men, and his duties seem to be limited to maintaining order in this city and eliminating bandits in the region. And so they attack a group of bandits called the Desert Camels. And when they attack them, they find a woman inside. This is Zhao Wei, the painted skin demon, and they rescue her. And he brings her back to the city where she becomes a servant in his household. And so, I mean, we can get into sort of the next step of the movie, but just that opening scene and the scene with the bandits. Did you guys have any thoughts on that?
I do have a question actually, because I don't know if it's because I have like the brightness reducing software on while I was playing this movie, so I don't know if my screen was tinted yellow or if it was just a very yellow movie throughout.
There's a very orange glow at the
yeah, okay. I
movie.
just making sure,
Yeah,
because I wasn't sure if like seeing the desert and then it was always very orangey yellowy, and I want to make sure it wasn't just me there. But I think that was a pretty striking scene. I really appreciate how the soldiers gave off the feeling that they were very well trained, and then that the bandits were just a rabble.
yeah.
It's not something you often, you don't really get to appreciate this sort of thing in movies sometimes, because normally it's just mass melee, and you can't really tell. These feel like spec ops more than your run of the mill mooks, right? They're running around like sniping with their bow and arrows and like distracting with fire and all that sort of stuff. I was actually quite impressed with that, with the way they choreographed that.
Yeah, I thought it was a very well choreographed fight scene. It was very punchy. It had like all of like every time somebody got impaled, it was just kind of like it had a real sort of sharp rhythm to it. So I thought it was an effective fight scene, and I liked the way that the bandits, they were sort of like a ragged group. They weren't particularly skilled, and the leader seemed more interested in in eating and the pleasures of the flesh than any grand scheme. So it was I thought it was a kind of a cool opening scene, and I also thought that I was very impressed with Zhu Xun's performance, in that, like, especially when you kind of contrast it with the sequel. I feel like she was really able to play up the I'm just an innocent woman type thing. So she would just kind of go back and forth between being this like predatory demon to this I'm a frightened woman now, and but she turned it on a dime. It was like a very quick shift. So yeah, I thought it was a strong opening scene, and then they bring her back to the city, and she enters into their household as a servant, and then 3 months later or so, there's this banging at the gate, and it turns out to be Donnie Yen's character, who's Pang Yong, and we learn more about him over the course of the film, and just so that we can talk about him coherently, his backstory is that he was interested in General Wang Sheng's wife before, when he was the former leader of it seems like he was the patrolling inspector, basically. Like, he had whatever position Wang Sheng has now, he held that position, and he was in some kind of romantic relationship with Pei Rong, who is Wang Sheng's wife, and we don't know exactly what happened, but the end result was Pei Rong ended up with Wang Sheng, and Pang Yong ended up abandoning his post and basically becoming a homeless drunk. And he did it very spectacularly at the end of a battle. So they find him drunk, passed out. They bring him in, they nurse him to health, and that kind of sparks all of the drama and fuel of the movie. And so it sort of becomes this thing where I'm a little unclear on the details, but I think what happened was the wife might have actually written him some letters requesting that he come, because she thought that Zhao Wei was a demon, and she wanted to investigate that. At least by this point in the movie, she clearly has these suspicions, and so she brings them to Pang Yong, and Pang Yong ends up meeting this other demon hunter whose name is Xia Bing, and they sort of team up and try to hunt the demon. And it turns out that Zhao Wei, the painted skin demon, also has a chameleon demon that's working with her, and he's also in love with her. So you have all these characters that are in love with each other, and but that person's in love with somebody else, and so yeah. So before I get too far ahead of myself, any thoughts on this part of the movie?
Yeah, I got the impression that Peng Yong was gone a lot more than just a few months. I don't know if I'm right or not. Probably not. But I got the feeling that he was gone for 2 years.
Oh yeah, he was gone for years. I when I said 3 months, I just meant 3 months elapsed between the bandit and the and them being in the city.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I don't think they give a specific time frame, but my impression was he had been gone for years at this point, and he definitely looked like he had been on the road for quite some time when he showed up, because he's a mess. He's like a drunk. His hair is all disheveled. He's not even like mentally all there. Like, when he wakes up, he still kind of thinks that he's with Pei Rong. He's talking to her like she's like they're still a thing, and he seems to have forgotten all the things that happened in between. And then he kind of comes back to him, and he goes to that inn, and he meets up with Xia Bing. and who describes herself in the subs as a demon buster, and she's got the rod that she can never pull open until the end of the movie.
It's not even the rod, anyway.
No, but she describes it as a... Well, I don't know what... Maybe the subs were wrong, but she describes it as a rod, and like the big reveal in the end is it's like more of a sword when she pulls it open, right?
It's more like one of those like retractable baton things, right? Like the nightstick. But...
I'm kind of confused about that. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead,
I was a little confused about that section because I thought that she had been, over the 2 years, she had been sending the letters to Pang Yong, and they might have been love letters. And then when he didn't respond or come back, then she ended up, that was my impression.
You're probably right.
That she ended up with Wang Sheng. Because we obviously know that he had been in love with her even when... Pang Yong was in charge. He was in love with her, but then I think I don't know, to me it kind of appeared that she settled for the second best choice because that was what was left.
So I think what happened, so I've got a slightly different view there in that I think, well, she loves, I think she loves the both of them, but she just loves Wang Sheng more, and that's why she chose him in the end, and that's why Pang Yong went into a rage and decided to wipe out a bandit camp by himself before quitting his job, basically. And that the letters that she was sending to him were just like because she feels so guilty about reducing him into this state, and that she's just like trying to find out, see what he's up to, and it's the equivalent of like Facebook messaging your ex or something after a horrible breakup, I think.
One of the things that's so interesting about the love story in this is how much you can kind of project all kinds of things onto it because it's not totally clear what happened. They don't really say it explicitly, and I think what you just said, that seems like a totally feasible explanation.
It makes sense.
But I felt like every time I watch it, I feel like I can sort of play out different stories in my head of what might have happened. And I think there's also, there is sort of the thing going on too, where I feel like in the scene where she's parting, like we see one scene with her and Donnie Yen, Pang Yong, and he has to depart, and it seems like she doesn't want him to go away, but then she kind of gives that longing look at Wang Sheng, and I feel like he got the full treatment with the makeup in that scene. Do you know what I mean? So I felt like we were supposed to think, oh, that guy is more like attractive to her than Donnie Yen's character, and so I think it's kind of like what Kenny was saying, where she sort of. Oh, go ahead. You're going to jump in?
I don't know. I've got the movie sort of playing on the side here, and I've got definitive proof that what I say is the most likely scenario, because in the scene where before he takes off his armor, the camera lingers on Wang Sheng's waist, where he's carrying the jade pendant that Pang Yong gave to Pei Rong, and when he says later on, and I think that give the pendant to the person you love, basically, and then she gave the pendant to Pang Yong.
Okay.
To Wang Sheng, yeah.
No, that's an interesting point. Yeah, and I would tend to think that if there's a camera thing like that, because there's that scene when Pang Yong first comes back and Wang Shen is like, "Oh, I have something of yours to return to you," and the camera goes right to her face, and then you see that look on Pang Yong's face, and it's and he brings him his guandao. He doesn't bring him, but you can tell he's thinking, oh, he's going to be with her again, because he hasn't quite let it go, and so I think you're right. I think you're probably right about that. But she ends up going to him and asking him to investigate, and he investigates it alongside this demon buster, Xia Bing, and they kind of make an interesting duo. She's kind of a rough around the edges type character. She like when he first meets her, she's like slurping soup, and she's kind of like she's hunched over the table eating, and it couldn't be more of a contrast from the Zhao Wei character, who's so elegant and refined all the time. And so I feel like they were really playing up that aspect of her personality, and so they go on their investigation, and it eventually results in them believing that Zhao Wei is a demon, because when he looks into her past, she had claimed to be the daughter of a silk merchant, and it turns out that the family that she claimed to be from didn't have a daughter. And so they confront her, and she admits to lying, but says it was just because she, wanted to have a position in their household, not because she's a demon of any kind. And there's almost like an inquisitorial sort of confrontation between everybody and her, and then they ultimately decide to just keep a close eye on her. And slowly, the suspicion that she might be a demon seems to fade for most of the people, except for Peng Yong, Xia Bing, and Pei Rong. But yeah, no. Any thoughts on that part of the movie?
I really like Xia Bing's character. I mean, I think you're right that she's very rough around the edges, but I think someone who travels around the world as a demon buster kind of needs to be a bit rough because she's a lone woman traveling on the road and all that. So she needs a couple of tricks up her sleeve, and she probably picked up some self-defense habits there as well. And I do like the fact that she's the one, the traditional sort of eating meat and drinking wine type character compared to everyone else. And even at this point in the movie, you can sort of appreciate that Pan Yong and her might be a good match because they seem to have some sort of chemistry between them where they're just like very easygoing people. And the way they sort of tease each other and make the first meeting that they have is when Pan Yong is going to the inn and he leads his horse there and he says something to the stable boy, something like, I left my horse here. What are you gonna say? I got scared I'm gonna run away and feed my horse, and he walks off and she does the exact same thing as him and gives him like I think she's sort of like whacks him with like some dust or something.
She gets off and she shakes her robe or something, and all the dirt flies on him. Just the way they interacted during their first meeting, which sort of sets them up as a good pairing, I think.
Yeah, I liked her character too. It kind of was reminding me of the demon hunter in the second one. Kind of didn't believe that she was going to be any kind of force to be reckoned with, kind of inept through most of the movie until the very end of it when, she needs the rod to come out and she actually gets it to come out. So it's like, kind of really don't believe that she can do what she says she can do until like the very end. But I liked her character. I thought she was really cool, and she was really down to earth, and really just what you would expect for someone who travels around all the time looking for demons.
Yeah, I would agree. I'm kind of disappointed she didn't make an appearance in the sequel. I felt like she would have been a cool character to have in the second film. But I guess we were sort of talking about this before the episode. But basically, the demon hunter in the sequel, his surname is Pang, and so we've deduced that he must be a descendant of Xia Bing and Peng Yong. So it's kind of like a I guess unnecessary for to have the descendant be one of those two actors. But yeah, so after this is kind of when the real melodrama really hits the movie. This is when we kind of have an extended situation where Zhao Wei is essentially under house arrest being observed, and everybody is keeping a close eye on her. But she has a really frank conversation with Pei Rong and says that, she says, no, yeah, I am in love with Wang Sheng, and she asks permission to be his concubine. And this kind of really creates a lot of turmoil. And this sort of comes in the wake of Wang Sheng having a series of dreams where he's clearly lusting after her. And so, and again, the movie goes on. We know that Zhao Wei has to eat human hearts, and the way that she does this is the chameleon demon. I think his name is Zhao Yi, but I could be wrong. He's constantly bringing her fresh hearts because he can blend in with the environment, so he's able to just slip in and out. He even makes her like a little refrigerator, like a little mini fridge for her to see, and she just totally dismisses it. He's like invented refrigeration so she can have fresh hearts, and she just sort of doesn't even seem to notice. But ultimately she ends up rebuking him because she tries to seduce Wang Sheng, and just as there's sort of this moment where initially Wang Sheng says there can only be one Mrs. Wang, and he's sort of adamant about it. But then she gets him alone, and she tries to seduce him, and it's a little bit unclear where it's going to go. And at that very moment is when Zhao Yi attacks him, and in the wake of that attack, she tells Zhao Yi to go away, and we also learn that Zhao Yi is in love with her. So you have, again, this really complicated series of relationships going on, and then in the wake of that, because during the fight with Zhao Yi, everybody runs out to the courtyard to see what's going on, and the wife sees that her husband was in the same room as Zhao Wei, and she assumes that it's probably because they were doing something, and so this eventually leads to a confrontation between her and Zhao Wei, who sort of manipulates her, kind of like in the second movie, but a little bit more. It's a much more down to earth kind of manipulation, where she basically persuades her to take a kind of like demonic poison so that her hair will turn white and her body will turn white, and tells her that if she takes the blame for the killings, because the whole all the investigations have been about finding the people who've been having their hearts plucked out by her demonic companion, that she'll spare Wang Sheng. And this is at a point in the movie where the demons have managed to make it seem like Peng Yang is the killer, and so he's already sort of on the run and assumed to be guilty by many people. So she ends up getting driven out by the people of the community who see her in this demonic state, and Peng Yang leaps in and rescues her and takes her away. And then there's a big final confrontation, which we'll get into away from the city. But I just wanted to get your thoughts on this, sort of later section of the movie.
There was a lot of melodrama, wasn't there? I was just saying, go on, Dion.
No, you go ahead, Kenny.
No, I was just making the comment that there was a lot of sort of melodrama in the whole city scene before everything all hell breaks loose, and it's just sort of like there's a lot of Pei Rong just being like, I guess insecure would be the word, despite all the constant reassurances from Wang Sheng that there can only be one Madame Wang, or Mrs. Wang, I guess is the sub she used, that she couldn't get over the fact that he might have he treats Xiao Wei as a sister or whatever, despite the fact that he is having rather risque dreams about her.
Yeah, I think she has good reason to be concerned. What were you gonna say, Dion?
I was gonna say I liked how in this one that Zhao Wei revealed herself to Pei Rong by peeling off her skin, and the way that they had the not really a skeleton behind it, but it was, I don't know, it was like kind of like weird worms.
Yeah.
It was really weird, but it was really cool. And then she, manipulated her into, she used that to manipulate her into becoming the demon so that everyone else could live, because she said that once you have to die. So I thought that was a good ploy to use for the whole situation.
I agree. It was very effective because she was kind of backed into a corner because Zhao Yi sort of forced her hand because she can't get ready access to these hearts without his help anymore. And so it was a cool move. She reveals her true form to Pei Rong, which is a big surprise. And then she also just kind of lets her go away and says, tell everybody if you want, but everybody that knows is going to have to die. And so, Pei Rong really can't do anything, and she has to go back in and basically say, okay, what do you want me to do? And so that's what ultimately leads her to drink it's the same kind of sort of gold sparkling, evil beverage that she drank in the sequel, but it's just, this one just kind of poisons her and turns her white. So there's not the big, elaborate exchange of skins and all that in this one.
It's quite interesting because we can't really tell what sort of demon she is. I mean, we were told from Xia Bing's ancestors once sliced off the tail of a nine-tailed fox demon, right? And is this what we're sort of assuming Xia Wei is supposed to be?
It's weird because I think they are making her a fox. Because I remembered this one, her not being a fox demon, but this time watching it, it looks like she's definitely a fox demon, because when they reveal her true form at the end, she looks very fox-like. And we even see her as a fox at one point. In the original story, again, I'm going by translation, so it could be wrong, but she's simply described as a demon, and it says that she has like a horrific face and teeth like saw blades. And so, there's nothing fox spirit at all about the creature in the Painted Skin story. So I don't know if they just threw that in, or if there's something that is not coming through in the translation that is giving them the hook to make it a fox spirit. But
yeah, because I was just saying that the lore in both movies seem a little disjointed, but I guess we don't really need to think about that too deeply sometimes.
Yeah, no, and I think the movies themselves are fairly consistent with each other. It's just that they're, again, going by translation, they're a little bit inconsistent with the story, but maybe they just wanted sexy fox spirits. I don't know. I don't know what the, I don't know what, also fox spirits are a much more recognizable type of thing. So maybe there's that. Maybe they figured that has more international, appeal. I don't know. But either way, go ahead.
Oh yeah, as I say, I was meant to start talking about the chameleon demon. What was his name again? Xiao Yi.
I think Xiao Yi is his name. Yeah.
And it's one of these things I've sort of noticed in Chinese movies where a lot of the time this is the so-called nice guys finish last thing, where the guy who supposedly makes all these sacrifices, does all these for the woman, never gets a woman in the end. Which I find is quite interesting, because I don't know if that's sort of a thing in Western movies where
it happens being nice in Western movies.
Yeah, because it's what I was gonna say. Like, I don't know, it seems more prominent in Chinese movies that the nice guy just never seems to get anywhere.
Well, and also, to be fair, he's not a totally nice guy. He's ripping out people's hearts to feed her. Yeah. But no, he's kind of, and she even calls him, like, she says he's shameless for following her around at the end. Like, when she rebukes him, it's that scene where she yells at him. She really lays into him. And
I definitely agree with their point of view. It's just because, like, people aren't vending machines. You can't put like kindness coins into them and expect something out of it.
But also, he is legitimately in love with her. So it's a and he ends up, but he sort of ends up working against her because of that. Like, he's trying to work towards what he thinks is her best interest, and so he just kind of when he steps in and attacks Wang Sheng, and when he leaps in at the end when she's sort of releasing her cultivated spirit, and he grabs it from her, which again we'll get into that in a minute. I think it works though, because you kind of need him to leap in at the end. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's like a very important character.
He's the Gollum of.
Well, because her character arc is that she sort of gets redeemed. Do you know what I mean? She isn't really the big bad at the end of the movie. She's willing to sacrifice herself. So you need him to step in as some kind of antagonist to create the conflict, so that the last scene is interesting. And so I guess we should probably get into that last scene, which is a little bit complicated, but basically, so how do we say this? Wang Sheng believes that Pei Rong is a demon, but then he wants to take responsibility and kill her himself. And then after he kills her, Donnie Yen's character, Peng Yong, just does this spinning attack with his Guandao and hacks into Zhao Wei to prove that she's the demon. And there's a little bit of a battle, but ultimately what ends up happening is Wang Shen walks up to Zhao Wei. I think he stabs her in the heart or in the shoulder or something, and then he drops to his knees and he pleads with her to restore his wife, but he also says that he loves her. He says to Zhao Wei that he loves her, but that he's married to Pei Rong. And so this moves her enough that she is seems to be willing to do something, and Wang Sheng then kills himself, and then she she tries to release her own spirit, and that's when Zhao Yi steps in and grabs him. There's also a moment during this exchange where she lets out this like cry of rage or grief, and her body transforms a little bit to look a lot more fox-like. She looks like a Gelfling from the Dark Crystal almost. It's like a very distinct look that they get. And it's a very different look from the one that they go with in the sequel. I thought this look was a little bit more low-key and effective than the one in the sequel, which was kind of a little bit over the top for the fox demon when she sort of reveals her true nature. But so then there's a big battle between Donnie Yen and the demon buster and Zhao Yi. They ultimately the demon buster and Peng Yang are able to kill Zhao Yi, but Peng Yang sacrifices himself and falls directly on Jia Bing's blade so that the demon can be impaled. And then the spirits are released, and everybody comes back to life, and it's kind of a happy ending. And then
it's a Disney ending.
Yeah, it's a very Disney ending. And then Jia Bing and Peng Yang go wander off together to hunt demons. Pei Rong and Wang Sheng are still a happy couple, and we even see a shot of of a fox and a chameleon in the desert, so we kind of get a sense that they're still around. But yeah, I glossed over a lot, obviously. But what did you guys think of the final scene?
I thought it was a very fitting end to all the drama, to be honest. Like, a lot of all the sort of love triangle stuff got resolved here in that scene, and I guess new romances were born as well. I don't know. It's hard to say. I think that'll be between Pang Yong and Xia Bing, but one thing I'm not really sure about though is the sort of the speech that Xia Bing gives, something about hatred, I think it was. So when Xiao Yi's been killed, and then she's retrieved like both of their sort of, I don't know, took their internal pills or whatever it is that the demons have, and hands them over to Xiao Wei. She makes a little speech about how I think the reason she couldn't pull out the magic sword before was because she had hatred.
Yeah, that's what she said. I kind of had a similar reaction to you, I think, but go on.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what she means. Is she like, I'm assuming that maybe demons killed her family or something, and that she had hatred towards demons, which is why she was unable to use the weapon, and the only reason she could do it now is because like she only had thoughts of protecting Pang Yong, which is why she was able to. Or it's kind of like the whole Thor's hammer thing, like you prove yourself worthy, and and you can pull out the blade.
I think it was because she was going more towards a protective motivation rather than a motivation of just wanting to destroy the demon. But I did feel a little bit tacked on to me. It felt sort of like it wasn't really explained. You kind of had to think about it and draw a conclusion, but I don't know if that's bad. I just think that was it was a little puzzling to me.
Yeah. Oh, well, I was just wondering if it was like, Betty Sun going, I don't have enough lines in this movie. I want a nice, impactful moment. So give me a good speech in the climax. And the director was like, oh, sure, whatever. Writers, get on it.
Yeah, I agree with both of you about the whole setup, but I also think that she kind of had some kind of sympathy for what the demon was going through at the end, wanting to be able to release herself in order to save Wang Sheng, and then that's when most of her hatred like melted. But combined with the protectiveness of Peng Rong, Peng Yong, and just a whole bunch of things melded together, releasing the hatred, and helped her to to be able to be capable of doing what needed to be done.
Well, she has a really moving scene where when Peng Yang falls on her sword, she's weeping, and it's a pretty notable moment. She does a good job with it, and so I think that was like a big part of sort of, after that she's more affected by his loss than by any need to eradicate this demon, which she could do. She's in a very good position to do so. So yeah, I think that's about right. What did you guys think of this compared to the sequel? Like, just in general, like how do you think that they're different, and how do you think that they're the same?
I don't know. I said I like the sequel more, and that's just because it felt like the characters had a bit more depth to them rather than just like my husband's sort of interested in another prettier girl type of thing, and there's a whole charm thing going on there, which I think sort of added a dimension to the movie. You weren't really sure if the general in that was he a general, or was he like a random constable? I can't remember what the what Chen Kun's character in Resurrection.
Oh, I think he was a general.
Oh yeah, like I wasn't really sure if he was interested in Xiao Wei's character there and stuff. And I do have a question about the differences between the two movies. In that, in the second movie, we were told that demons can't feel, right? Which is part of the entire reason why Xiao Wei was seeking to turn into a human, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just trying to figure out, is that consistent with the first movie in mind as well, or?
I don't think so. Only in the sense that when she gets hit with people's attacks, she doesn't seem to feel it. But there was never any emphasis on them being unable to feel, or like I felt like she was probably able to feel the things she was holding, but if somebody stabbed her, it just didn't.
No, I mean more like in the emotional sense, because like I don't know, I don't know if that was what the
I don't think it was at all.
Was as well. Okay, so
yeah, I don't think it was at all in this one.
The fact that she feels love is not an inconsistency. Then
I feel like it was a reasonable elaboration for the second one. Like maybe the director of that one noticed, hey, she gets stabbed and she doesn't react, so why don't we kind of roll with that as the thing. I don't know, or maybe there's some lore about demons, about
Well,
oh, go ahead.
I kind of get the impression, looking back from the second one to the first one, that she fell in love with this man, and all this stuff happened, and then she realized in the second one that I guess that's what she wanted, was to have true love and some kind of emotional connection with someone instead of just eating their hearts. So that's why in the second one, the focus was more on the, finding love and being human to feel the emotional pain kind of thing. That was my impression.
Yeah, I think she's a really cool villain, actually. She's really kind of an interesting one because she's sympathetic, but she never quite loses that ability to scare you.
Right.
But we asked this during the other movie, but what kind of movie do you think this is? Like, is it like, it's obviously, straddling several genres, it seems. But what sort of movie would you classify it as?
Firmly in the romance category for me.
Okay.
Romance, drama, little fantasy.
And it's got some the fight scenes do kind of have wuxia elements to them, but it's clearly not a wuxia movie. I was thinking about it, and I feel like this movie does a really good job of capturing the feel of Strange Tales from a Chinese studio in general. Sort of you have sort of the supernatural, but it's not necessarily all scary. A lot of it is romantic in nature. and so it seems like a good presentation of a lot of those ideas. But yeah, if I was describing it to somebody, I would definitely say it's kind of got like there's almost like a soap opera element to some of it. It gets very melodramatic, and even the music, which I want to talk about because something I think I remember mentioning. We talked about the music a lot in the sequel, and I might have mentioned something about how I thought the music from this one was good too. But when I was listening to it, I found myself getting really, really frustrated with the soundtrack. And I don't know what your experience.
Me too.
Was.
Me too.
There were places where it was amazing, where it was really good, but there were parts where I was like, either that's like a really, really cliche like walking bass line, or that sounds like something from like the most typical like a bunch of spooky chords from an old silent movie. We're supposed to be feeling the suspense, and some of it just sounded like someone just dicking around on a keyboard to me. But then there were other parts that were amazing, and so it's a good sound, and the soundtrack won awards. So it's possible I'm just missing something here, but a lot of the stuff just was like some of the scenes, the music, like in the second one, the music had this effect of really pulling me in, like it just drew me into the mood that they were trying to create, and I felt like I was getting drawn into the world they were creating. And here I felt like the music and the movie existed in two different spaces at times, especially when it was repeating itself a lot and kind of, I don't know, it's something about, it might have just been the way it was recorded. I don't know.
Oh, I think I don't know. So I feel like the soundtrack was good, but the use of the soundtrack was off. Like it seemed to crescendo at the wrong time sometimes,
Yeah.
and the choice of the soundtrack for a particular scene might not have quite fit in with what's happening at the moment. And I don't know, but maybe it was the fact that it was pianos and violins that sort of felt a bit off when you're sort of watching something set in I don't know, what did we say, Song Dynasty or whatever. Like it's very sort of modern orchestral music, which it's fine. It was really good music, but for this movie, I don't know. Was it the same in the second movie? Because it never stood out to me.
The second movie had piano. It had the strings.
Yeah,
this one even had guitar in places.
It stood out a lot more to me in this movie for some reason, though.
That's why I think it was almost like the recording. Like it felt like the music did not feel like it fused to the film in the way that it did in the second one. I couldn't figure out why. And again, there were times where I thought, oh, this music's really working. Like, especially like in the romantic moments. But in the action scenes, it felt kind of, I don't know, kind of like it was really leaping out at me. And that it was like rising above the movie itself, and again, a lot of it was I thought very redundant. It was almost like a Philip Glass style, like kind of a minimalist type soundtrack. I think I prefer the soundtrack to the second one. They both share the same end song, I think, because the end song to this is quite good, and again, a lot of the like. Half of it was really quite good, I thought, but just some portions of it, I was just getting frustrated. I might have just been being too picky. I don't know.
I was totally sucked in by the drama and the crying at certain points. I don't even remember any of the music from this one.
I might be just being too picky here. I don't know. I just was. I kept going over to my guitar to like find the notes that were being played just to see what was annoying me about it. But again, the soundtrack did win an award, so I don't think that it's like
you say win an award, but what award did it win?
Right,
like that changes things. Like if it won a random award in like I don't know, in Beijing City or whatever, it was like a minor award somewhere.
Okay, so here's the thing: it was nominated for best original film score in the 28th Hong Kong Film Awards. But it won Best Original Film Song. However, the song that won is the end song, which is quite good. The end song is very good.
Yeah, that was a good song.
And that's actually sung by Jane Zhang, the Dolphin Princess, who also did the opening music in Return of Condor Heroes 2006. And so, so that makes sense that would have won. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I think it did get nominated though. That's still something too, and it was the Hong Kong Film Awards. But yeah, I don't know.
I think if we can like look at the soundtrack in isolation, like all the pieces were quite good. I thought.
I know there were a couple that I don't think were quite good. There were a couple of, and I'm usually all praises for music, but like there were a couple that were like, they just sounded like cliched chords taken from an old, like if you ever watch like those old silent movies where they have the soundtrack that's supposed to be played over it, they sounded like that, like these sort of wobbly rising chords that are adding mystery and mystery. And there was even one scene where they were playing something that I can only describe as quiz show music, where when people are thinking about the answer they want to give. And that was definitely not the mood of the scene. So again, maybe I'm just not on the right page for what they were going for, but I was really getting angry when and it's not like I noticed this the last 3 times I watched the movie, so it didn't like leap out at me, but this time I was really picking up on it.
So my view there is that if we took the soundtrack and like scrubbed all labels from it and just let someone, a random person listen to it, I don't think they'd associate this with a movie about demons and like killing demons and romance as well, because some of the songs are, I think what the ones that's like the sort of chase scene music was very bom bam bom 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 bam bom bom. And it was just doing it again. It frustrated me in the way that a Philip Glass piece will frustrate me, where there's sometimes like a really good core concept, but because you're only getting that core concept in like concentric circles or something, it gets infuriating. And again, just like with Philip Glass, a lot of it kind of sounds like something I could do. Do you know what I mean? It's like when you feel like it's I don't know. I can only describe some of it as just sort of sounding like dicking around to me. But again, I'm probably being overly critical. What did you guys think about the ending in general? Like, were you happy with the happy ending, or do you think that it was a cheat to have everybody restored to life? I think it's fine. There were sacrifices made. I mean, maybe for people not familiar with the genre, they won't understand like what sort of sacrifices are being made here. But like 1,000 years of cultivation for a demon is not a trivial thing to give up.
And in fairness, in the original story, spoilers if you have an intention of reading it, the main character, whose name is also Wang, is restored to life by his wife. Actually, his wife ends up swallowing this phlegm from like a weird spiritual beggar type guy who might be a god, might not be. And when she coughs it up, it falls into his chest and becomes a heart, and he comes back to life. So I felt like it was very in keeping with the story. How'd you feel about it, Dion?
I wasn't expecting everyone to come back to life. I was just expecting certain people, I guess, to come back to life. But I thought it connected the first one and the second one to me, because in the second one when the movie started, we found out that she did a great sacrifice, and that's why she was imprisoned in ice. So it was nice to see what the exact sacrifice was. So that's what connected the 2 movies for me. But I thought they could be standalone movies.
Yeah, I think they both work well separately. Like, you can watch Resurrection without really watching this one. You might be curious about what came before, but it sort of establishes the basic context. And it definitely adds to some emotional weight to some of the scenes if you know this movie before you see that one. I mean, we already kind of talked about this, but did anybody have a favorite character in the movie?
I did like Xiaobing's character, but she wouldn't really do much to warrant being a favorite character in the movie, I'd say. I also quite like character. I quite like the that one soldier who was like a bit sketchy about Xiao Wei there. Like he was pretty amusing to see.
Was he the one that he met a very nasty end, right?
Yeah, he was killed by Xia Yi and fell off a watchtower or whatever, and was used to frame Pan Yong. But I think I actually don't even remember his name. But I thought he had his moments were quite amusing.
I actually like Zhao Yi, the chameleon demon. I thought that his character was pretty cool in that, you know, even in human form, he could blend into anything and could hide. And I hate to say it, but I liked his vengefulness in that he was trying to get rid of all the men that fell for Zhao Wei so he could have her to himself. And the loyalty that he did have for her, you know, as a loyal companion, trying to just keep her alive and everything. But I thought his character was really cool, and what they did with it.
Yeah, and he was kind of an interesting one because he had to be funny at times, he had to be scary at times, he had to be like, you know, you had to believe that he was in love and feeling, you know, that he was being rejected at times. So, and I felt like I felt all those things with him. And I thought that the scene where she did reject him, I thought they both did really good in that scene. I felt like he really kind of, I don't know, you could sort of, you could feel the sinking in his chest going on, and just like her, like she was really yelling at him loudly, like it almost hurts to watch. And so I just, you know, I think they had a good moment together with that.
Yeah, I liked his ingenuity with the refrigeration box, and I don't know. I just thought his character was a pretty cool, unexpected mix of different emotions and people, I guess.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think I probably would still pick Xiao Wei as my favorite character just because she's the painted skin demon, and you know she's got all, you know, I think that that she does a really good job with that character, and that it's a sort of a sympathetic villain. But also I think Xia Bing is, you know, she definitely had a small role, but the little bit of her that we get is all very entertaining. So I always enjoy, especially when she's paired up with Donnie Yen. I thought they had a lot of, you know, they kind of had a good chemistry together. But yeah, so I don't know. Go ahead.
As I say, like I can tell you who I didn't like that much in the movie.
Okay,
Pei Rong, but that's just because her character was like I thought the actress was fine and all that, but Pei Rong's character was. I don't know. Just something about the way she probably kept Pan Yong dangling along in the past, you know, prior to the movie started. Yeah, playing Pan Yong and Wang Sheng at the same time, and then causing him to basically, you know, fall into depression and turn into a beggar. You know, it's all her fault. If she was falling for Wang Sheng, she should have made it clear in the first time. I'm sorry, I've fallen in love with this guy.
You don't think Wang Sheng bears any responsibility for the things that happen in the movie, or?
Nah, he's all right.
So I just want to correct something. I missed one of the awards the score got. It also did win the best film score for the Chen Kun Film Festival. So I don't know how prestigious that is, but you know, it did get an additional award. So I may be crazy. I don't know, or the awards might be rigged. But it's you know, I'm gonna lean with maybe I'm being overly critical. But yeah, I don't know. I really like Vicki Zhao as an actress, and I thought she did a really good job in this role. But you're definitely not supposed. You're supposed to be a little bit annoyed with her, I think, and I feel like they make up for that in the second movie where she gets to be a little bit more of a badass and kind of, you know, a little bit more of an
she was
entertaining
so much
character.
better in the second movie. Though.
And so yeah, in this one she's kind of. She spends a lot of time fretting over, and also just kind of, it seems, planting seeds that bear bad things in the future. So, but I thought she did a really good job as an actress with it. Like this, like, you know,
Yeah, like she showed her turmoil very well, and yeah. Everything was really good. But like I said, it's honestly just a character. Yeah, she's anyway.
Sometimes you're
She's
supposed
so
to
much
feel
better
that
in the
way.
second movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Maybe it's a good thing that the fact that I feel that way about her character. Maybe it's just a sign of her acting being so good that I can hate her so much.
And we only talked about it once, but what did you guys think of the fight choreography and the fight scenes in general? There were some rooftop scenes. There's definitely some wire work, and there was some other things like that. But it wasn't the star of the movie. Like this is not a movie that you would watch necessarily for the action.
CG was terrible.
No, what? Yeah, there was one scene where they were leaping, and the chameleon guy
across the roof.
Yeah, he looked really fake. I would agree with that. Some of the CG I think was quite good. It's just that the CG that fell pretty flat. It was 2008 though, so you kind of gotta, like when you go back and watch a movie that's like, earlier, you kind of gotta expect a little bit of that. But there were a couple of scenes that were a bit surprising. And what about the overall set design and look? Because this one, like the second one, has a clear look to it.
I like that. I mean, you sort of get hints that this is sort of the sort of Qin dynasty-ish. I like the what pillars were they using? They were using like lumps of wood for the pillows.
I think they were headrests. Yeah, I think they were like wooden headrests or something.
I thought those were pretty cool. Is the fact that I would never want to sleep on something like that, but and I like the armor for that all the soldiers had as well.
Yeah.
The chainmail and the leather sort of padding on the character. The costume design was pretty well done. It was all very consistent. Beautiful. Yeah, it was a feast for the eyes, but you could never really quite tell when it's from.
They did a good job too of making a big production of like taking the armor on and off. So like when he puts on the armor, he's got to have his servants putting it on. And the scene where Donnie Yen rips off his I forget what kind of vest it was, but it was some kind of armored vest, and it makes this like ripply sound when he sort of, I don't know, unlaces it or something. And it just all kind of, it had like a texture. I felt like I could feel it between my fingers, the way that everybody was handling all this armor. And I liked the look of the wood, like the wood, like the housing and the like everything kind of had like a black or a brown hue to it, and it just all had a very consistent tone.
Yeah, I enjoyed the women's clothing, specifically Zhao Wei's clothing and Pei Rong's clothing. I liked when they showed Zhao Wei in her room, and her clothing was not just laying around; it was on these mannequin-like setups. That, I mean, it just made the scene beautiful to have the what she had on kind of like display. So it was really nice. I thought the coloring for the women was beautiful, and the embroidery work was nice.
Yeah, it's definitely like a visually. This movie and the second movie both are like very sort of strong visually, and they do good jobs with the costumes and the sets and just the general color. This one, I think the sequel, we sort of decided had like a blue and gold and black look, and this one felt like it had like an orange or yellow and black and brown look, but there was like a clear sort of color theme running through it, and so it just all kind of, I don't know, it just worked. But yeah, so I don't know, any other thoughts on this one before we head out?
Like I said at the beginning, I enjoyed Painted Skin and also Painted Skin Resurrection. If you could only watch one of them, I would definitely say Painted Skin Resurrection. But that by no means does that make Painted Skin a bad movie. It's just I prefer the second one, and if you're after a very dramatic romance story with a minimal level of fighting, mostly just set around the sort of dilemmas and the inner turmoils of characters and the themes of like fidelity and all that sort of stuff. Then yeah, definitely give Painted Skin a try.
I enjoyed both movies equally, so now I'm going to go back and watch them in order, back to back, in the same day.
That's definitely a good idea, and I also recommend them, and I think this is if for people who don't know we always do monthly themes, and so the theme this month is spirited beasts and ghosts, and we're going to be continuing that in the coming weeks. I can't remember the name of our next film, but I think it's another Fox Spirit type movie, and then we're gonna we'll be posting updates during the week so people can know what's coming up, and yeah. So and again, if you like the show, definitely consider giving to our Patreon. We'll post a link in the description under the podcast. We have all different kinds of tiers and reward levels, and we basically use the support so that we can buy the movies that we review, and so that we can pay for upkeep costs and things like that. So we're thankful to anybody who can contribute, and yeah. So until next week, we will talk to you later.